All right, YouTube. We're going to talk about the LSU game from this past weekend for the Auburn Tigers. It's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. Like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks for us Auburn. Down in Deep South, college football is king, and on the plains of Auburn, the battle cry is War Eagle. Auburn obviously not pleased with the result of this past weekend, losing to LSU 48-18, and this rivalry will not continue, at least for the foreseeable future, as Texas and Oklahoma will make their entrance from the Big 12 to the SEC next year, which will rearrange some scheduling and dissipate some of the rivalries in the SEC. Now, one that Auburn will hang on to is the Texas A&M rivalry, and they will hang on to, of course, Georgia and Alabama. I obviously don't think that, this is the end, at least for the foreseeable future, that the Auburn fan base wanted or the Auburn football team wanted for this game. One of the largest margins of victory. Auburn actually won 48-11 in 2020. Now LSU winning 48-18 in 2023. Now, as we rewind what happened in this game, one, it just appeared that the Auburn Tigers just weren't prepared. And I'm not saying practices went bad or, the coaches didn't try to get these guys ready. But it just seemed from the onset that there was some disconnect between what needed to happen versus what did. If you look at the beginning of the football game, Logan Diggs, running back for LSU, breaks one for a huge amount, very remnants of 2015 when Leonard Fournette just had his way against Auburn. And that was kind of the feel of it. It just felt like Auburn just never settled into this game, never found any kind of identity. You look at on defense, numerous missed tackles, numerous big plays, numerous situations where guys were just absolutely out of position to where it's like, what am I looking at? And Auburn just never got their feet on the ground in Baton Rouge like they did in, say, 2019 or like they did in 2021 when Auburn was able to win the game down there. At that time, it was just a dismantling of Auburn. Of course, Auburn has had some injuries on defense. LSU absolutely dominated the time of possession. They dominated the first down ratio. Now, here's a stat that I do like. Auburn is continuing to create turnovers on defense that leads to offensive scores. As a matter of fact, there was an interesting play where the ball was deflected and DJ James gets the interception. Auburn goes down for a touchdown. They can, try to, make this a game 20-10. But after a certain point, just off balance, outflanked on many occasions. You have a lot of passes downfield that you have a lot of missed tackles. You have a lot of guys out of position. Now, I hope you guys see where I'm going with this. The defense just did not play well. Eugene Asante was just not himself in this game. Constantly out of position, constantly being blocked on the play side to where, plays could happen. And there was just no answer for Jaden Daniels, which I'm kind of confused as to why Auburn chose the man-to-man route. I think this is a game where you got to go zone. You got to go zone with a spy. You got to go zone with a spy. You got to give your guys a chance to where they're looking ahead to where everything is in front of them. I'm not saying that Jaden Daniels would not have been able to do some of the things that he was able to accomplish. I think he made a good move to, possibly push the envelope for, if he continues to be successful. He's got a big game against Alabama here in a couple of weeks. Alabama taking on LSU after their bye week. If he can have an epic game there, maybe somewhat similar to what he had at Auburn, he could probably push the envelope for some higher awards. We're not going to say Heisman, but some higher awards. And maybe place LSU in a position to where they could be the first playoff team in the college football playoff era to have an opportunity, a legit opportunity, especially if they had a little bit more sound of a defense, to play in the college football playoff. I would love to see this. As a matter of fact, a matchup that I would like to see outside of all the college football playoff hyping, I would really like to see LSU with their offense. I would actually like to see them against Washington. How many of y'all watched that game? Washington versus Oregon. I was really shocked at how good Washington is. Now, I understand that the game was 36 to 33. But it just appeared to me that Washington had their handle on that game against Oregon. Bo Nix still had a great performance, but had a handle on that game the entire time. Now I will say that Oregon did help them out a little bit with the gambling on fourth down. But, man, I really liked what I saw out of that Washington team out of the Pac-12. What are some of the positives, though, for Auburn? Well, look, not Peyton Thorne, but Robbie Ashford threw the ball downfield. He was actually halfway effective during the times that he did throw the ball. Now, I'm not advocating that Robbie Ashford should be the starter, because Peyton Thorne did do some good things in the run-pass option, and he broke off some good runs, and I think one of them came back because of a penalty. But I think at a certain point, Hugh Freeze has to figure out what it is that he wants to do. One, he has to understand that for a couple of reasons, either because of the lack of talent at wide receiver or the surplus of talent in the secondary and interior linebacker with the SEC, that the option routes are not going to happen because you don't have time to figure all of this out. I think Auburn has to go with a situation where, hey, this is what we got. We got to make this thing happen quick. Dig routes, slant routes, curl routes. Like, all this elaborate stuff right now is just not where it needs to be for this offense to work. Which quarterback do I think gives Auburn the best chance? I don't like to do things like this because I think both of Auburn's quarterbacks are pretty talented in their own right. But what Auburn needs is a burst. If anything, at least let Robbie Ashford start against Ole Miss. Get the run pass option going. Because he seems to, as a matter of fact, there was a time where Robbie Ashford came onto the field, and I could see the players' demeanor change once he entered the football game. They felt like, hey, we got a chance to do some things. And I think that gives, get off to a good start. Just given, other than the Georgia game, just given all things that have been in place, Robbie Ashford does not get Auburn to a good start. And that's just the thing. He does some good things once things get settled, but he doesn't get Auburn to a good start. And I think, especially if in this Ole Miss game, Auburn either wins or loses the toss and accepts the ball first, I think you got to put Robbie Ashford in. You got to put Robbie Ashford in and push the ball down the field a little bit. Give these guys some confidence. Give these guys some, a situation that they can build on. But the 3 and outs just can't happen on the opening drive. Another thing, why is Sean Jackson on the receiving team of, well, we're not going to do that. We're just not going to do that. Another question that I have is with Sean Jackson as running back, and we're going to get to some of the others in a second, give him an opportunity. Give him a chance to get. I mean, the guy is like 6 feet or so, 200 plus, maybe 240 pounds. I mean, the guy can lean forward and give you 3 yards. Get him involved with the run pass option. Also, some more guys that I thought had some really good games. Jeremiah Cobb, leading rusher, had 69 yards. I think you also got to get Brian Batib involved with the running game. You also have to continue to find ways to get Jarquez Hunter out in open space. It's questionable as to whether he's effective with catching the ball out of the backfield. Now, that leaves this to question. How much does Auburn miss Damari Alston and don't even realize it? I think they do. I think they really do. Also on defense, getting outflanked on the the one wheel route. I mean, it was grossly undercovered. Also, just getting outflanked on the edges was something that was really questionable for Auburn that led to a lot of big plays. Auburn's got Ole Miss coming up this week, and they have Ole Miss coming up at home in a night game, which possibly gives Auburn the opportunity to pull off maybe a pretty, I think, considering where Auburn is, a pretty surmountable upset. We're going to have some more content, and we're going to talk a little bit more about Auburn and where things are at this point. This is my Auburn versus LSU recap. Not a great game. There were some positives that could be gained from this. You always gain some positive out of negatives, especially when you can, coach these guys up and coach these guys to be in better positions to do better later on. Go ahead and like this video, comment, and subscribe. And as always, incredible to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.